Warning, the following video contains mentions of depression and suicide. Please be advised.
Good morning and or afternoon. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd of March, 2022. I'm Brock Jennings.
And I'm Peter Clark.
And this is Intercontinental Media.
Hooray!
And Peter, I was thinking so hard because I looked at my watch and my watch said it was the 30th rather than the 2nd.
Oh, because you haven't moved it because it's got the manual dial.
I haven't moved it. No, I have been doing other things today, and I looked down. I thought the 30th of February.
That's not right.
I don't think that's possible.
No.
As much as I might like it to be. So, I am officially 34.
Congratulations.
I mean, you were there the day I turned 34.
I know I was.
Friends, Peter participated in my 34th birthday party, and it was delightful. It was almost as if everyone there was in person, even though there were so many on Zoom who had gathered.
Mm-hmm.
I think now, Peter, we're officially both old.
Yes.
And yet we're still looking at movies older than us.
That's right, we are.
And what are we doing today, Peter?
Alien!
You seem so excited about that.
It was a good movie. I hadn't seen it before. It was very good.
Oh, you hadn't seen it?
No.
I'd forgotten that. All right. Well, why was it such a good movie for you?
I thought it was shot really well. It was paced really well. It's my flavor of existential dread horror, kind of Lovecraftian stuff.
Your flavor of existential dread horror is what stands out to me. What do you mean by that?
Well, so like we don't get a lot of shots of the alien in action. There's more like jumping at the cat or like, all like there's a lot of jumping at shadows in this movie.
Ah, okay. And what do you think, what was the message of this movie for you?
The message of this movie for me, I don't know. Follow quarantine procedures.
When you get a warning, when you get a distress signal coming from another moon, don't visit.
Right?
Was it a moon or a planet?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was ever clarified.
Okay, because I looked it up on Wikipedia and that said moon, and then I was watching some documentaries about Alien because I was trying to make sense of what I had just looked at for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I could do that was, of course, to go to additional material to try to understand what on Earth was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the documentary was saying it was a planet. And so I don't know if they were at a moon or a planet. I'm not sure what to make of this movie.
No?
This one big psychosexual trip thing.
Yeah.
But I'd seen it before. I think I watched it in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in Minnesota when I watched it.
Yes.
And I had a friend who from college who enthusiastically said that, oh, this is one of my favorite movies. And then I was talking to another friend recently about it, and he said, oh, that's a really good movie. Well, both times I was like, okay, that's a thing I just did. I think the alien is kind of pretty. And I'm not sure what that says about me, given the subtext of the film, but I think the alien is sort of pretty.
Well, yeah. I could say things that I'm not going to because I might have to edit them out later.
Exactly. But but anybody who's watching this right now will be able to probably figure out what you and I are possibly thinking.
Yes.
And yes, I thought the alien was pretty. And my favorite scene is where the alien sort of beams and is sort of evilly smiling, and there's this like black ooze that drips down its mouth. I don't know if it's supposed to be saliva or what, but it's right before Veronica Cartwright gets killed, whatever her character's name is that I can't remember. And so what was interesting for me is Veronica Cartwright would make a very important appearance in the X-Files some 28 years later. Not 28, some 20 years later, wherein she will play a multiple abductee named Cassandra Spender, and who is the wife, well, the ex-wife of one of the main villains and my very favorite character on the X-Files, the cigarette-smoking man.
Yes.
And so when I realized, oh, that's Veronica Cartwright, oh, now that's interesting. The connections were fascinating for me in the science fiction world. So that was fun. Ian Holm, who we all know now forever as Bilbo Baggins from Lord of the Rings, was in it as the robot, and I couldn't quite...
Yep.
Ash, that's the name. And so I couldn't figure out this movie for me was a bunch of what is going on here? Am I supposed to be looking at the camera? Am I supposed to be looking for all the hidden sexual imagery, which supposedly is there, but was pretty much lost on me, honestly?
I think that's overplayed, honestly, the sexual imagery beyond the phallic nature of the alien itself, the xenomorph.
That would be the thing I find pretty, right?
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Which I was also unaware that of this phallic nature of the alien thing. I had to look all that up later. What I was aware of was the supposedly queer themes surrounding Veronica Cartwright's character, whose name I'm forgetting. Sigourney Weaver is the main one, and Veronica Cartwright is can't think of her name.
Sigourney Weaver is Ripley.
Yeah, it's not Ripley, it's the other one.
And then Veronica Cartwright is Lambert.
Lambert, that's it. The queer themes around Lambert, where in apparently the sequel in 1986, it is revealed that Lambert is likely intersex. So I was
well, that's fascinating because as a character, she's supposed to represent the audience's fears.
Which, of course, that was lost on me because I was trying so hard to actually try to find some queer themes in this movie because I knew that Alien was a big thing for queer horror, which is sort of why I wanted us to look at it, because I just wanted to see if I could actually figure it out. It was just lost on me. I don't know, Peter. I'm starting to feel like there's no hope for me or something.
To me, it's more of an anti-corporate movie than a queer-themed movie. But I'm not queer. I'm not LGBTQ, so some of those things might be lost on me as well. But what I take away from it is this anti-corporatism, right? The corporation places the importance of their profits of gathering this new thing over the lives of its employees.
What were they trying to gather? So
the alien itself.
Okay, so if we use this corporate theme, which would be easier for me to do given my history working a bit on Marxism and all of that, pardon me. So that's a methodology that I can put on much easier.
Right.
So if we go with that, my question would be: did the corporation did the corporation send Ripley and crew to that moon and or planet knowing that there was an alien on this planet? In other words, did they set up the distress call to lure these people in to get this?
That is the question. That's the question that's not answered. We're suspected so because of Ash being sent along, right? The science officer being
Right,
changed at the last moment, and him
right,
being an android, and thus not prey to the xenomorph.
right. Well, that was although there's apparently some highly sexual imagery when Lambert it's Lambert that kills Ash, isn't it? When,
Lam Lambert and um, Parker together kill Ash.
okay, yeah, and apparently there's something going on there too that can be pretty queer themed, and but that was sort of lost on me. But the corporate thing would make sense. I mean, certainly we're given the direct evidence when Ash is told to put everything else aside and stay, you know, um, what matters is the data.
Right,
Is the
recover the specimen at all costs.
That's it. Recover the specimen at all costs. Thank you. See, I don't take notes anymore, Peter. I'm trying to learn how to watch movies. So I don't have any notes, and so I can't remember exact quotes anymore. So you got to help me out.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very good at remembering exact quotes, and B, I just finished watching it this morning, so
I thought you were going to say, and B, I'm taking notes now,
no,
which would have been amusing.
I have never been good at taking notes on anything.
Oh, I have. Um, the the scope of the film seemed pretty narrow to
Mm-hmm.
me. And can I just say, as a side note, Jones is the dumbest name for a cat I've ever heard. But I loved that he was deemed worth saving.
Mm-hmm.
But the scope is pretty narrow. I want to know what the gender of the alien is supposed to be.
They are genderless, with the
Hmm.
functional exception of queen aliens, which are presumed to be female because they lay eggs. But otherwise, they are considered to be either genderless or hermaphroditic.
You must have done some reading into the sequels, right? Because there are 8 bazillion sequels to this movie.
A little bit. I know a little bit from uh, pop culture and stuff like that.
What makes these movies so famous? I hate to be a negative Nancy, but what makes them like these masterpieces, right? Like Ridley Scott is the director, right?
Mm-hmm.
He directed Gladiator, a bit blood and guts and a bit too much fancy camera work for my taste, but a decent enough movie. He also directed Hannibal,
Mm-hmm.
which, apart from changing Thomas Harris's ending drastically to in an attempt to accommodate Jodie Foster to come back to play Clarice Starling, she declined. Um, the movie is fabulous. That is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful movie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Um, this one, which may have been even his first film, I don't know. Um, this one to me, I can't. Number one, I can't figure out why there are 8 bazillion sequels, and number two, I can't figure out what's so good about this one. Yes, Sigourney Weaver's great. Okay, Veronica Cartwright, great. Ian Holm, good. I can't remember the other cast name, or I'd go list them off too. So the cast is good and strong.
Yeah.
The cat, of course, is the best actor in the whole thing. Um, but I can't figure out why we. I can't figure out the point of this movie.
It appeals to our fear of the other.
Yeah, but there are other movies that do that better.
I don't know that there are. I really like this movie. It appeals to our fear of the unknown. Right? Humans are fascinated with the idea of extraterrestrial life. And in so many movies, that extraterrestrial life is assumed to be morally superior to us.
But this wasn't morally superior. This thing was
Exactly.
awful. Wait a minute.
Exactly.
Just like us as a human race.
But that's that fear of the, so to in a this and Predator, and it's no accident that these two movies have those two movie franchises have crossed over.
God, I have to learn all the Predator stuff too now.
But this and Predator are two of the primary movies that deal with a an alien other that views us as the same way we view animals.
So you're saying, from the standpoint of the xenomorph,
Well, from the standpoint of the xenomorph, we're food. Full stop. Period. As Ash says, they lack conscience or morality.
they're really terrifying.
They are really terrifying, and that's why this franchise has done so well, because of that terror.
Did Sigourney Weaver stay in the sequels?
Yeah,
How many did she do?
I don't know, at least two or three.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
Lord, I didn't. I remember seeing the posters when I was younger, a kid.
She was an
For
Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection.
Lord Jesus. Um, I don't know if I can sit through another 3 hours of that. Forgive my what's the word? Pessimism. Here's what's ironic, Peter. You would think I would love this movie. I have been a dedicated fan of The X-Files for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. I love The X-Files. I love the mythology of The X-Files. I love all the links and nuances and twists and turns. And when everyone else thought it was getting too complicated, I was still trying to keep it all together as a nice old philosophical system with Hegelianism and a touch of Tillich's theological existentialism. Okay? You would think that this movie, Alien, would be completely right up my alley, yet I sat there going, I don't understand this. Apart from the terrifying imagery of the alien, I don't see how this is existential at all. It's as if, and this is what okay, maybe this is the problem. The X-Files did this so subtly when they dealt with aliens. You don't actually see an alien up close until the first movie in 1998. And it is shot in such a way that the alien in that film, or actually it's a hybrid because it gestated as a virus in a human. It's shot in such a way that it's mysterious somehow. It's more cunning. This thing wasn't cunning. This thing was just like, ah, here I am.
Well, I think part of it is because you're an existential optimist.
Please define what an existential optimist is, according to you. Like, I could guess what that means, but how do you understand that?
But so the X-Files deals with the extraterrestrial in an optimistic way.
How so?
Well, aliens are rarely actually like the bad guys in X-Files.
Sure, they are on the X-Files. The whole mythology is the impending colonization of the world.
Oh, okay.
I mean that comes later. That comes later in the show.
Okay.
But absolutely, that's what a government organization, secret government organization from inside the U.S. Structure, actually in the Pentagon. The problem with that show is I think it gave birth to a certain president in 2016 unwittingly. But anyway, putting all these streams together, and then Mulder and Scully and friends, because Mulder leaves and after season 7, they're trying to stop it.
But the other thing is, so you want significance. You want there to be a significance, a meaning behind you want the alien to have purpose and a morality and a conscience that maybe that's in conflict to ours.
But yeah, otherwise I'm just watching some wild animals slaughter people like Jurassic Park.
But that's the whole Lovecraftian horror of it, is that there is no significance, there is no meaning. We are but fleas on the back of a cosmic dog.
That is so unchristian.
I didn't say it wasn't, but I love that kind of horror.
Why? Because it brings out the absurdist side of yourself?
A little bit, and I just it's so contrary to the norms and the tropes that I was raised with.
And what were the norms and tropes you were raised with?
Well,
Let
that
us
humans
into
are
your
significant,
psyche.
that humans have meaning and purpose, and we are the highest form of whatever. But in Lovecraft, in this kind of horror, we aren't. There are things out there, and it is not a good idea to go looking for them.
Well, see, I agree with that. There are things out there, and it's not a good idea to go looking for them in the sense of the way they did it in Alien, in the sense of the way Mulder and Scully do it, I agree with. That should be done. But in the way that it was done here, why the heck would you go? I mean, you're just about to return home and you get a distress signal from another moon. You are under no obligation to do that. They did it just out of their own nosiness. They
No,
wanted
no,
to.
no, no, no. They had a contractual obligation. They actually had a whole argument about this in the movie.
Oh, that's right, because they wanted to be paid more.
Right.
But what I missed on that was they had a contractual obligation to help another being in distress.
To investigate it. They didn't help. They didn't have to help. They just had to investigate it.
Oh, well, screw the contractual obligation, break it, lose the money, and go home.
Well, they would have lost all of their money, though.
Well, there's your corporatization argument then.
Right. No, exactly.
That this is really somehow. And when did it come out? This came out, what, 1979, right?
79. Yep.
Yeah, it came out in 1979. So that's what is that? That's just coming off the oil crisis. The Vietnam War
Yep.
has come to an end. Reagan's not yet elected. We have to wait until, what is that, 1980 when Reagan gets elected.
Carter's still president.
Carter's still, well, at least it was a good president at that time. Sorry, I don't mean to be political. Then, so I'm just trying to set this movie in a larger context because I'm still trying to understand what I saw. I mean,
why do you have to understand it? I mean, why does there need to be I mean, so the director and people have said they put in psychosexual motifs and things like that, and they're there. If you go looking for them, I think you could find them. But to me, the whole thing has to do with the lack of value of human life, both to our corporate masters and to the universe as a whole.
All right.
So the only value we have is that which we bestow upon ourselves.
Okay, in that sense, it makes the movie a lot more compelling to me because it's an exercise in existential absurdism.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And that really needs to be thought about, particularly in our world now.
Yeah.
Although we've got plenty of more problems closer to home, there is then a timelessness to that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it may be existential absurdism, but Sigourney Weaver and the cat still survive. I
They
mean,
do.
come on. That's a kick-ass cat. Like,
They do
seriously.
survive, but in the original, I looked this up. In the original ending that they had planned, they don't.
So why did they change the ending?
Um, I don't know. Probably tested poorly with audiences, and they saw the possibility of a sequel.
Oh, why is it that what is it? I think it's every film that we've watched now has a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why do people feel the need to do this? Why isn't one enough? Why do you need to
Money, money,
keep going?
money, 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 money.
Haven't hasn't Hollywood made enough money?
Not to them. Very few people think they've made enough money. Certainly not corporations.
Have you ever found a sequel to a movie franchise good?
Empire Strikes Back.
I always like Return of the Jedi more.
But the point still stands.
No, but Star Wars is like Lord of the Rings. It's one big novel.
Okay.
Not
Like what
one big
else?
novel. It's one big film. Sorry, Star Wars was never a novel. It became a novel after when it was novelized.
Right, right, right. Um, Let me think.
Same goes for Harry Potter, by the way.
I know.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of purely film franchises where the sequel was. Um, this is controversial, but I think Too Fast, Too Furious was better than the first one.
I'm going to be even more controversial. Watching cars race around the screen and having crimes committed for 2 hours left me wondering why I wasted my day.
It's pure action porn, man.
Well, I sort of feel similarly about the movie Saw. The movie Saw is an insult to good horror. It's just it's just watching people get tortured for an hour and a half, and I have better things to do with my time than
Agreed.
that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Or in the see, although having now just made such a forceful statement, I have come in the last months to appreciate Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Oh, interesting.
for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the movie as content. I would not choose to watch it today, but in the fact that it was epoch making at its time to shift the horror genre,
Mm-hmm.
I can respect that.
Okay, that's fair.
And so I have sort of come to new thinking of that one, whereas previously I thought, why did I just watch this? How do I get my night back? This is ridiculous. Even the pizza I was eating, which was good pizza, with that movie was sort of spoiled on this trash. Um, I'm a very picky film watcher. Have you noticed?
Yeah. Oh, I've got a good one for you that's better than the original.
Mm.
The second Christian Bale Batman movie, Dark Knight.
Ooh, see, I'm almost inclined to agree with you there. Did you see all three of them?
Yeah, of course it did.
Okay. Yeah, I did too. And I think I may have seen all of them in the theaters even. I saw Batman Begins in the theater. I
Ooh,
saw Dark Knight in the theater, and I saw Dark Knight Rises in the theater.
another one. Terminator 2 is better than Terminator.
I've never seen those actually. Oh no, I've seen Terminator. I used to have it on Laserdisc. You remember
Yeah,
Laserdiscs?
I do remember Laserdiscs.
Do you have one? Do you have a
No.
Laserdisc player?
Oh God, no.
I think it would be so cool to see Alien on Laserdisc. I would watch this movie again if I could watch it on Laserdisc with audio commentary.
Why not just get the DVD
Because
or the Blu-ray?
laserdiscs are cooler. Laserdiscs are cooler, and you can navigate. If you've got a CAV format, you can navigate down to the frame. You can't even do that with a Blu-ray. Well, maybe you can now. You used to not be able to do that with a Blu-ray.
It all depends on the player.
I had quite a few Laserdiscs. I would watch this movie on Laserdisc if I could.
There you go.
I would. Maybe that's the problem, Peter. Maybe that's the problem. Movies like this are best watched on Laserdisc.
Well, now you're just sounding like me on vinyl.
Well, yes.
That's just uppity.
Who collects? Unfortunately, I live in Europe now, so getting a hold of laser discs is near impossible. Not totally, but nearly impossible. But I don't know. I was looking forward to seeing this movie again, and when I got it in 2016, I bought a whole special edition DVD. You know, the whole thing. I was gonna look at this movie. And the only thing that I really liked about it both times is when the alien just grins before it murders Veronica Cartwright. I thought that expression on the xenomorph was just priceless because I was reading it at the time as this is pure evil. Right? So
but it's supposed to be purely amoral.
Well,
the xenomorph is not actively, because the xenomorph doesn't differentiate between good and evil.
Well, okay. Hear me out just for a second. You can tell me how ridiculous I am. But I read this as the following: when human beings go exploring what they shouldn't, they encounter a deep hiddenness in the universe and also deep evil that they are otherwise sheltered from. When we keep to our own business, we don't have to deal with xenomorphs.
Except the scary thing is it's evil by our definition, not evil by the universe's definition.
Because the universe is just indifferent?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't accept that.
The universe is just indifferent.
I can't accept that.
That's the entire point of the Aliens, Predator franchises and H.P. Lovecraft's horror.
Was Lovecraft an atheist? He must have been.
No, I don't think he was.
But
that was to him what was the most horrifying, was the possibility of an indifferent universe.
So you really think that this xenomorph thing is totally indifferent and just looking for food?
Yeah.
It's not filmed that way. It's filmed as if it's some kind of evil attacker. A monstrous version of Freddy Krueger or the Shape from Halloween.
It's filmed as terrifying, which it is. But I think to assign intent to it beyond survival is to read too much into it.
Peter, evil without intent is far more terrifying than anything Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger could come up with.
Exactly. That's why this movie's so great.
You may be already shifting my opinion of it a little bit.
Yay. But that's the whole thing with Lovecraft, right? That's the whole thing with Lovecraftian horror, of this cosmic horror, is the indifference of the universe to us.
But Stephen King is deeply influenced by Lovecraft, and he doesn't have this.
He's influenced by Lovecraft, but I would not call Stephen King's horror Lovecraftian for that very reason.
What would you call it?
I mean, I think it's its own thing. I think Stephen King took a lot of the trappings of Lovecraft and placed a morality on them.
So that's very interesting. So we've dealt now with two films that, because there was no morality when we watched The Shining either, really.
Right. And that was Kubrick, because Kubrick doesn't want to accept. Kubrick believes in the indifference of the universe on a certain level
Isn't it
towards humanity.
Isn't it interesting? Both films that we have watched that deal with this kind of absurdism or indifference, I have not liked.
No, and I've loved. That's just my. I mean, it's like so. So there's almost the opposite of this in a way that I love in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Um,
Okay.
that there's again there's an indifference of the world towards humanity, specifically humanity. The in the first book, it's the guy, one of the guys who works on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is this tour guide to the galaxy. Um, Earth is labeled as harmless, and he goes to update it. Lives here for several years, and he updates it to mostly harmless.
Okay, but I have a question. If the world is as these films are portraying, and I don't know anything about Hitchhiker's Galaxy except the number 42,
The answer to
but
the
if
question of life, the universe, and everything.
it's also Agent Mulder's apartment number in the X-Files for that very reason. I kid you not.
I believe you.
But and that's the only reason I know the connection to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was I finally, some years ago, wanted to know, why does Mulder live for his first 8 years or whatever in apartment 42? Um, if the universe is as you say it is, well, no, not that you say it is, as Lovecraftian absurdism says it is, why don't we all just kill ourselves?
Because we're terrified.
Well, why are we terrified if there's no meaning anyway?
No, but because we're terrified of the possibility of no meaning. Lovecraft actually says that if we delve too far and too deeply, we will retreat into the comfort of a new dark age.
I would almost prefer that to the alternative.
Mm-hmm. No, so what I'm trying to remember the gist. Obviously, I can't give you word for word the full quote without looking it up, but the gist of it is the greatest gift the human mind is its inability to correlate its contents.
It's not the greatest gift of the human mind at all. The greatest gift of the human mind is to make meaning out of meaninglessness.
Well, but that's why it's good that we can't correlate our contents, because we would find nothing but meaninglessness.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I'm not sure what to do with that. You're just giving me like I know it's Ash Wednesday today, but come on, I don't need to be reminded that much that I'm dust, and to dust I shall return. I mean, there's really nothing then.
According to these sort of mythologies, yeah.
Why are these so popular?
Because it gnaws at the soul in a just I can't describe it as anything other than a satisfying way.
Satisfying? There ain't nothing satisfying about that.
I don't know.
It speaks small to town roots.
It speaks to me.
Why?
I can't explain it. I love Hellboy. Hellboy is the same kind of Lovecraftian horror. The universe is indifferent towards us because it has Lovecraftian gods and things like that. And
why not Spider-Man?
I mean, I like Spider-Man too, but as well. I mean,
I knew. I got it.
Yeah.
I thought, you're talking about Hellboy. Why not Spider-Man?
What do you mean?
Well, Hellboy is a superhero, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why not Spider-Man then?
I could like both.
I don't know, these absurdism. I don't see the point to living if this is reality. I don't see the point if, I make this journey to under this company who wants to make all this money, and you spend all these months going out into space, and then you're forced to investigate it, and really all you find out is you're the only survivor along with the cat. And I just find that terrifying.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what reality really is?
I don't think that's what reality is, but I think it's a terrifying view of reality that's compelling.
How is it compelling?
How is it not? I mean, to consider the possibility that we are, I mean, that we are just insignificant dust in the background noise of the universe.
Well, we are insignificant dust in the background of the universe, but that doesn't mean that the universe doesn't have a point. That means we don't understand the point at the moment, and we will by and by, as the old spiritual goes.
Right. But what if we don't? What if there is no point? What if nihilism?
Then I think the world should just be annihilated tomorrow.
But I mean, so
It,
nihilism makes the argument that you have to create your own meaning,
no.
that there is no inherent meaning. So you have to create your own.
Okay. So we are just from this view of reality, we are not only dust, but there's that much suffering in the world without any promise of a future.
Right.
I can't accept that.
Not even theoretically.
Well, theoretically, I can play with anything. Theoretically is a different realm. Theoretically, I could go write a dissertation on Thomas Aquinas, but practically, I don't want to deal with all that Latin because I'm not you.
But that's the horror of it. That's the compelling horror of it. Is what if nothing?
You like the what if thing. This goes back to last week when we were talking about the notion of what, since the Enlightenment, would be called the supernatural. And I talked
Yeah.
about the supernatural existential. And you, as a way to frame the sort of fantastic things that happen in Stephen King, and
Mm-hmm.
you talked about well, what if the world could be like this? It's like you like that what if
Oh,
question.
absolutely, I do. I love it.
Why do you love it? What compels you to that question? Because I think just to narrow it, we have a very different way with which we approach films.
Well, I have a very imaginative mind, so I enjoy dealing with possibilities, with theoreticals, with what if statements. What if was one is one of my favorite comic book series from Marvel.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what kind of mind I have then. I have an imaginative mind, but I'm usually predicting future catastrophes that I'm going to suffer through.
That's
That's
what I
my.
mean by that's an anxious mind, not an imaginative mind.
There is a reason I love Paul Tillich.
But I think you have a very concrete mind.
Thank you. That's the best compliment anyone's ever given me. What do you mean?
I mean, you don't like to hold things in conflict with one another.
I like to hold things in tension with one another.
No, but I mean in
In
conflict. I mean, you want there to be a reason for suffering.
Well, yeah, the classic Enlightenment problem of theodicy, since who was that? Leibniz, the Lutheran philosopher Leibniz.
Right.
Um, I guess I guess I fit philosophically within the question of theodicy, and for me, it has to mean something about God. That God is God is all powerful, but God's power is revealed in the weakness of love. And that love limits itself in order to suffer with us.
Yeah, I don't think human suffering says anything about God. I think it says everything about people.
Well, it's not just human suffering, the suffering of creation, the well, to continue on that theme, this the sheer exploitation of the earth.
Right. I
The
place that all squarely on the backs of humanity.
You don't think God can suffer? What happened when God was nailed to a
I
cross?
didn't say I don't think God can suffer,
Mm.
but I said I don't think that that suffering speaks. I think God's suffering speaks to the nature of God.
Mm.
I think our suffering speaks to the nature of us.
Is God present with us in our suffering? Because according to Alien, the answer would be no.
I like to think God is,
Mm.
but there's that nagging part of the back of my brain that questions the terror that that is terrified that he isn't, that
Mm.
God isn't. And that's the terror that this speaks to. That's the deep rooted human fear that Alien and Lovecraft speaks to.
Um, and that could be my disagreement with the premise of the movie, because I mean, again, we're not doing Stumbling Block, but we are two theologians who are watching films.
Yeah. Well, I
And
don't think this movie says nothing about the. I mean, to speak about the nature of the universe is to ultimately speak a little bit about the nature of God, and this movie says something about the nature of the universe.
yes, it does. And this whole notion of meaninglessness is impossible in light of the resurrection, so I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But there is deep meaningless experienced on in that death cry of Christ from the cross. There's
Mm-hmm.
deep meaninglessness
Mm-hmm.
confronted there. And but because of the Christ event, God has taken on that meaninglessness into God's very being. And that for me is why there is still hope, because God is revealed in the grave.
But you're getting into the concrete. You're not living with the movie in the movie's own premise. You're watching the movie and saying, I deny your premise. You're not even entering into the conversation with the movie.
I'm sorry. I tried. Okay.
I know, I'm just telling you, I'm just saying, right? Like what makes this movie terrifying is the premise of nothing.
Oh, well, maybe that's why I say I deny your premise, movie, because it is so terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it is
But I enjoy sitting with that terror. And to me, that's the truest terror.
that there's nothing.
That there's nothing. And I think if you don't ever wrestle with that, then you're really missing something about the human experience and about the deep implications of what we've found so far in the universe, which is nothing.
Well, now, to be fair, I would say that on a personal level, I have wrestled with it. I didn't come to the position that I was articulating earlier overnight.
Yeah.
And I still wrestle with it to some degree. Basically, you are theologically talking about Luther's second form of hiddenness, a
Mm-hmm.
God hidden behind the cross,
Mm-hmm.
that he deals with in Bondage of the Will, and that certain Lutheran scholars love to work with. Um, Somebody who you had the pleasure of studying with at Luther Seminary, but I never did. But I do engage said person in my dissertation, and I critique him very, very strongly, by the way, which probably doesn't surprise you.
No.
Um, But you are to, and so now to perhaps enter your premise instead of saying I deny your premise, because you're not alien, you're you. So
Yeah.
I will entertain your premise for a second, even if I won't entertain, even if I won't entertain aliens, I will entertain yours. Um, you are getting at the terror of the hidden God,
Hmm.
and what the studies of the universe that you're talking about, as we discover the vastness, not only of this universe, but of multiple universes, it seems on the outset that there really is nothing. There is no God as a deus ex machina.
Right. And
And
that is a fact that has to be wrestled with.
absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And
And
really it
that's
is,
something that Alien does. Alien wrestles with that.
yes, Alien wrestles with the hidden God, as in a way does The Shining.
Yep.
Now, from the and I think I could, well, no, apart, there are some mystics that would do this, and I can't think of who at the moment, but I'm pretty sure there are some mystics that would do this. But Luther is one of the few theologians who would take that kind of hiddenness seriously, and he is a thorn in the side of theology, um, down to the present time. Now, as you know, I'm very influenced by Karl Barth, and um, there there simply is no hiddenness of God behind the cross for Barth.
Mhm.
Um, and the theologians who followed Barth, which were the majority of Protestants in the last century, followed Barth on this. All the big ones did, um, with the exception of some Lutherans.
Mhm.
Um, God's hiddenness is gone because the focus is on God is revealed as hidden in Jesus Christ on the cross, or God is hidden in Christ as revealed on the cross, whichever way you'd like to say that. That has become the focus. And so you talk about the suffering solidarity of God, which, by the way, is exactly what I was doing as we were
Mhm.
talking just now. And yet we're still confronted with the question in films like Alien of, okay, fine, suffering God on Golgotha, just fine. What about outside of Earth?
Mhm.
Now, Paul Tillich would say that if there are multiple universes, and I think he's onto something here, they too have, not about the multiple universes thing, I'm talking about the rest of his argument. Obviously, he's onto something with multiple universes. Um, they too somehow have the experience of, or have the ability to access the new being that is revealed in Jesus. I think revealed to us here in
Mhm.
Jesus.
Mhm.
I think there's something to be said about that. But in him there might be kind of the hiddenness that you're talking about. But I don't think he ever goes into existential absurdity. I mean, even who's the philosopher that talked about the drive into death? Is that Heidegger,
Maybe.
or is it Kierkegaard? I
I know Kierkegaard deals with some stuff like that because
yeah.
Kierkegaard deals with why don't we just kill ourselves?
Well, where do you think I got that? Where do you think the question came from? I wasn't actually aware that I was referencing Kierkegaard there, but I'm not surprised that I was. Um, but that is a good point. If there is nothing, why don't we just? I mean, that's the question that this movie needs to face. If there's nothing, then we should off ourselves tomorrow.
Well, because of the sheer terror of nothing. If we offer ourselves to tomorrow, we give into the nothing.
Well, then nothing's going to win in the end anyway, because you're going to die and there's going to be nothing. So I'd rather have it come sooner rather than later.
Right, but according to Kierkegaard, we rage against the nothingness.
Yeah, but we rage against the nothingness because of God.
Yeah,
So there's still something for Kierkegaard.
yeah. There's still, well, depending on when in his writings you read Kierkegaard.
Oh, did he become an atheist?
No, he just gets more or less depressed.
Come on, every existentialist has to be depressed.
Absolutely, I am.
Wait. So you actually define yourself as an existentialist.
I would define myself as an existential absurdist. Yeah.
What's your problem with Paul Tillich?
I don't know. I haven't actually read much Tillich. Mostly, I
Okay.
just like to needle other people about him.
You mean me about him?
Yeah, mostly.
Um, okay. So you define yourself as an existential absurdist, and you define me as an existential optimist.
Hmm.
What films have we watched so far that fit into the category of existential optimist?
The Exorcist.
Not Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, but The Exorcist was the one that came first to mind.
Huh. That's interesting. That's interesting. You don't think Halloween?
I didn't say I don't think Halloween. I
Hmm.
just said Exorcist came to mind first.
Okay, because I'm just trying to figure out, because these last two films I chose for us because they were A, films I didn't know very well,
Hmm.
but B, films I didn't particularly like,
Hmm.
right? Like, I like Halloween.
Yeah,
I don't like it as much as Nightmare on Elm Street, and we can have that debate for the rest of our lives, but I
absolutely.
like it. Um, The Omen is existential absurdism.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah, I think so.
I love that movie though. You were the one that didn't. You didn't like that movie, and
I don't
well,
know.
you
I don't know. I mean, I didn't dislike the themes of that movie. I disliked the execution of that movie.
okay, okay. But I loved The Omen.
Hmm.
I love The Exorcist. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Halloween.
Hmm.
Well, even though if you go back to our recording, you can hear me complaining because the problem was I had to watch this thing in German and it was a bad dubbing.
Yeah.
That was the problem with it. But Lord of the Rings would be existential optimism.
Oh, absolutely.
Looking at me like I'm Captain Obvious.
I don't know. I mean, because it's all about. I mean, and I love Lord of the Rings, right? It's all about the triumph of good over evil. It's amazing storytelling in the books, and it's amazing cinematography in the movies.
Isn't that the Christian narrative?
It is a Christian narrative. Lord of the Rings is a Christian narrative.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it
Um,
was written by a devoted Christian. It's going to have some of his worldview in it.
okay, fair, but I mean, I don't even know that this needs to be a Christian worldview that I'm talking about here. It's not that I dislike Alien because it's not Christian. That would be far too evangelical. It's I dislike Alien because I can't find the point. Although your corporate criticism gives me a point and a
Yeah,
way to
there's
look at
corporate criticism, but part of the point of Alien is that there is no point.
it. And I sit here going,
That existence borders on the meaningless.
I mean, that to me just sounds like let's all kill ourselves. I mean,
Well, I mean, and I mean, as a depressed person, I've had to struggle with that.
mm, mm.
As someone who is at his core an existentialist, I've had to struggle with that, and I've had to come up with defining my own meaning, with
Mm.
finding my own meaning, finding I've taken the existential absurdist beyond simply the philosophical to the practical
Mm.
of
Mm.
um I believe part of my job is to make your life a little stranger.
You do that amazingly well.
Thank you.
Amazingly well. Um, then, in a sense, though, Alien and The Shining confirm your worldview.
Yeah.
Even though you say that you enter in the what if, in some ways, this is your worldview.
In some ways, it's not completely my worldview. It's a because I do believe in a God. I believe that God is benevolent. But I don't believe that the universe is benevolent.
God is the creator of the universe. The universe is not benevolent. Excuse my analogical reasoning, which is rather undialectical of me, but I wonder about that. If there's a benevolent God and a non-benevolent universe, what does that say about the benevolent God?
And that's something I really don't want to get into right now because it would take us another 20 minutes and I have a piano tuner coming.
Well, we can save that for future films because
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure we will deal more with existential absurdism in the future.
I'm sure we will.
Because I'm not going to give up struggling with it now, because now I've decided that I want to try to figure you out. And if I want to try to figure you out, then I have to watch all these movies. So we have a special announcement before we go. And that is next time we will be looking at the beautiful, excellent film, Silence of the Lambs. And we are going to have a very special guest with us. And that special guest is Professor Volker Lepine, who is professor of historical theology at Yale Divinity School. That would be of Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. So we're looking forward to that. And until next time, I'm Brach Jennings.
I'm Peter Clark.
This is your friendly neighborhood, existentially absurd YouTube show, Intercontinental Media.
You're not good enough for Beverly. You're not good enough for anything. You've been bitten by a boyish child.